It is a Final Four edition of the Desmond Johnson Show here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by a loaded panel. As you can see, it's Duke-centric today. We've got Steve Wiseman from the Durham Herald Sun, beat writer for the Duke Blue Devils, and of course, Devils Illustrated publisher Conor ONeill in the house. Jaelen Gilkey, my co-host every other week from WFMY News 2 Sports in the house as well. We're going to chop up the Final Four. We're going to get into it. It's going to be heavy Duke. We're going to try to figure this out. Is Duke the team to beat in this Final Four? It kind of appears that way. They're the number one team in the country coming into this, but this is an all-chalk Final Four. All four number one seeds making it to the Final Four. First time since 2008. We'll talk about the significance of that. Our Final Four thoughts overall, and who's the best freshman player you've ever seen in your lifetime. We'll talk about that and more. You can comment on the section here on Facebook Watch, on Instagram, on X, at Tobacco Radio. You got a question for Steve, got a question for Conor, question for Jaelen or me. Post it there. We'll post it live while we're on the air. Let's go ahead and get this thing popping. Let's go ahead and roll the intro. It's the Desmond Johnson Show.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city need that. I've been number one, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed whacked. I'm going harder than a martyr on the starter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's fourth and inches, I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
And again, welcome into a loaded Final Four edition of the Desmond Johnson Show here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. Make sure you rate and subscribe over at the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel, where you can find things such as the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, which is Carolina Panthers centric, gives you live and new podcasts on the Carolina Panthers every single week. You can find us over there at youtube.com/at Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Again, Steve Wiseman in the house, Duke beat writer for the Durham Herald Sun, Conor ONeill in the house, publisher of Devils Illustrated, Jaelen Gilkey in the house, WFMY News 2 Sports anchor. Gentlemen, let's just jump right into where we are now. So I need to rehash the games from this past weekend. We know what the Final Four is going to be. All four number one seeds making it into the Final Four here, and just Duke, man. I've been trying to figure out how I was going to say this to folks, but watching that Duke game this weekend, the Elite Eight game, Duke, I got to give props to Jon Scheyer. I want to start off the show me giving props to Jon Scheyer, because I did not know that he would be this good of an actual coach, an X's and O's coach. They were doing stuff like on inbound plays where, like, just simple misdirection. It felt like to me watching them, and this is the trick to Duke, and maybe Conor and Steve can agree or disagree to this from watching a lot more than I have this year. This Duke team feels like their main operating goal on defense is that at any given time, one of the five guys out on the floor for the other team is going to make a mistake. And when they make a mistake, we're going to exploit it every single time. And it's going to be something so small, you look back on it like, oh, man, why didn't we do that before? And Duke has just gotten to this point at the end of the year. There was a play where it was like an inbound underneath the basket, and they had motion going on up towards the three-point line at the top of the key. And it was just a simple kind of pick kind of deal going on. And when the guy picked, the guy that was following him, he dragged in front of it, and it just left the guy that did the pick just standing there. And he just walks into the paint. There's no one in front of him or anything. The guy literally just hands him the ball and he dunks it. I'm just like, a simplicity like that. I was like, that is a coaching call. That came out of a timeout. And that was just something where they were like, the guy, when you see it on the replay, the guy that was supposed to be following the pick, he's looking over here. He's looking the complete opposite direction. There's no one there. And for some reason, he's just like, he's so confused for like a second and a half. And that second and a half was enough for Duke to get a quick dunk. And they've just figured it out. They've simplified it. And it feels like they're doing more X's and O's than they did previously, where it felt like they were just rolling the ball out and playing kind of like pickup style ball. Steve, I want to start off with you. How do you, am I correct on this assessment of Duke in terms of what I'm seeing? It feels like they're way more X and O oriented and way more polished in terms of the stuff they're running than what we're previously used to with these Duke teams, where they're one and dones and they kind of just roll the ball out there and let the talent do what they do.
Yeah, I mean, you know, because of the one and done era, they always had better talent than most teams, right? So they felt like they could do that. And I will say that I remember during Shire's first year looking at synergy and looking at the points per possession on after timeouts or inbounds plays under their own basket. It wasn't very good. And I think they converted one of those against Carolina or one of those games that year. And I wrote, this was a surprise that they actually did this. And now you're right. They've come around to where they're excellent at that area. That goes right down to coaching, like you said. So whether it's Shire, obviously he gets a lot of credit for it. His staff gets a lot of credit for it. They have a great analytics team, the Marcus brothers. Conor knows who I'm talking about. Those guys who are playing a big role now. That now they're a man short since Jay Lucas left and went to Miami. They've had to rely on everybody, and so the analytics is even more important than it was, and it was already important. So yes, this team is so confident in what they're running and what they're doing that they know it so well. I mean, the guys have played together all year. They've had a few injuries here and there, but nothing. Nobody's been out for like 2 months or 3 months like we saw with Kyrie 15 years ago. Remember that? And other guys that have been hurt. So it's not like they had to get used to somebody and then get reused to him again. And that's been the thing, and they've been pretty strong.
Conor, your thoughts on this too? Because again, both of you guys covering Duke backwards and forwards this entire season, and I, in terms of Shire's ability to team build, I keep forgetting there was guys like Mark Mitchell and other guys on this roster last year that they kind of had to be like, all right, well, if you stay, your role's not going to really be the same, but we're doing this over here. So if you want to stay, we'll figure it out. But if not, it might be best for you to move on. He literally flipped the entire roster pretty much, except for a couple of guys, and they are light years better than they were last year in terms of mental toughness, overall talent, size. They are the largest team in the NCAA. Like, it feels like by far. It feels like they're playing. It feels like they're the Monstars when they're out there. Like, they're so long and like they're just all over the place. And it feels like they enjoy playing defense more than offense. And whenever I see a team doing that, those are the ones that are really hard to beat. Your thoughts on Jon Scheyer this year in terms of his coaching and what he has done this year? And I think he might be National Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I think he should be National Coach of the Year. I wrote a column about why he should have been the ACC Coach of the Year. That becomes kind of a silly discussion at this point of the year. But I think to kind of advance what Steve was talking about with them not being good out of timeouts and that coaching, the areas of games where coaching shows up. John's first year, he had, Steve, what was it, 7 freshmen or 8 freshmen?
It was Flip's freshman year. So, yeah.
So they've got 6 freshmen on this year's team, but there's also Sion James in his 5th season, Mason Gillis in his 6th season, Malik Brown in his 4th, Tyrese Proctor in his 3rd, and all of them have been in the program. There's just a further evolution. They're further along than they were in that first year. And then last year's team, when you compare them, it's the toughness factor that this team has that last year's team just flat out didn't have. I mean, we don't have to sugarcoat that anymore, do we? Like, it's a year ago, and we saw what they looked like when they got pushed around. We've seen what this team looks like when they get pushed. They've in the last couple of weeks, they've almost blown 2 20-point leads, but they've still held on and won those games because of how tough they are and because of how cohesive they are. Whereas if last year's team is in those positions, I think you feel much less confident about hanging on to those leads. So you never feel good about, winning a game by 7 when you were up 20, but you still win. You still beat Arizona in the Sweet 16 and go on to the Elite 8.
Bottom advance.
That's a lot better than the alternative, right? So
that's
where the differences are.
I will say shout out to Caleb Love, because if Arizona had pulled that off, I think you would have seen Caleb Love Arizona jerseys in the Dean Dome like for the next 15 years whenever Duke came to town. Like he literally played the best as he possibly could for them to still lose that game.
Well, Jaelen, you would have seen a split jersey up in the rafters.
Oh, right. Right, correct. Jaelen, your thoughts on this as an impartial reporter for WFMY News too. Your thoughts on Cooper Flagg? I know we've talked about Jon Scheyer, but I just saw that he just won the about an hour ago. Duke basketball just tweeted out that the NABC National Player of the Year is Cooper Flagg. They just announced that. I'm assuming he's probably going to sweep most of these awards. I can't think of a freshman if he pulls this off on Monday. And I shouldn't say he. It's not like it's just him and like his followers doing this. This is a team. Like they can win without Cooper Flagg, to be honest with you. but with him, they're almost unbeatable when he's on. Your thoughts watching Cooper Flagg this year, and in particular the past couple of weeks, in terms of it doesn't feel like he's really forcing anything. He's just out there hooping. And like, it's weird to kind of see a guy that's so good at so many different things acclimate himself into this team the way he has. And he's supposed to be a high school senior. Like he reclassified. Like he's not even supposed to be here. Like he just turned 18 in December. So thoughts on Cooper Flagg?
Yeah, first of all, I couldn't imagine if he was still playing high school basketball right now. I mean, I know he was at Mount Vernon, and, playing the national schedule, the highest level of competition that you could see at the high school level. But I mean, the way he's dominated college basketball, I mean, there's many of us on Press Road up in the skybox up there in the rafters in Prudential Center in Newark. We were talking about how there's a chance that Cooper Flagg could really continue the way he's playing now, and the level of dominance that he's shown, he can really be a franchise guy, a habitual repeat all-star level player, possible MVP level player at the NBA level, just because of the completion of his game. I mean, he leads Duke in all 5 major categories in stats, so it's not like it's just gas, right? It's not hot air that people are puffing, blowing into his head, and this isn't overblown. This is a real thing. This is a real phenomenon. He's a great player. He's the best college player in the nation by far. The way he leads on the floor, vocally and by play, the 2 things you ask for from your best player. And then in the locker room, you can tell the way he interacts with his guys. Everybody loves him. And then he never gets too high, never gets too low, whether he has 30 points or he has 2 points. So as long as they continue to win and continue to put a product on the floor that he's pleased with as a leader, then he's good. So I'm very impressed with the young man. I haven't had as many interactions with him as Steve and Conor, but I tell you what, he's very impressive on the floor, even more impressive off the floor. And I said it after the game on Saturday. I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit, but I said it on air. The game was still taking place, but I was like, hey, this is the deepest team in the country. This is the most talented team in the country. And barring a catastrophe, they got the best player in the country. They're going to win the national championship.
I mean, they are, I think, the deepest team in the country in terms of what they can do. And you've got kids like Isaiah Evans coming off the bench playing 6 minutes and giving you quality defense and a bucket here and there, where he could probably start for, 80% of the teams in the country. I mean, when you have that kind of situation going on, it's
probably all 3 of the other Final Four teams he started on.
Yeah. And before I get to the actual Final Four and our picks and stuff, I want to stay on this freshman kind of conversation, because I started thinking about it when I was watching him. I'm like, again, it's not like they're not like just like running ISO for him or something like that. Like during the Zion year, that's what they were doing. It felt like they would basically put Zion at the top of the key and be like, all right, Zion, work. Or RJ, all right, work. And it was like they just kind of took turns basically playing ISO and Cam Reddish. That felt like that. This feels more like they're playing a scheme. They're playing an offense. Like they're supposed to be running these plays. They're supposed to be in certain spots. They get so many easy buckets, like just off of cuts and just basic basketball. Like it's refreshing to watch it. It hurts as a Tar Heel fan to watch it, but it's refreshing to see it, where you're so used to seeing ISO ball, especially if you watch NBA and it's 75 threes getting chucked per game or whatever. To watch Duke the way they play, everything they play is in the pocket. Like it's whatever they're doing. They're not forcing anything, but dude, it's at a point where pick your poison. Okay, take Cooper Flagg out. Now what? Tyrese Proctor's going to hit 8 threes on you. All right, take him out too, if that's possible. What do you do now? Well, Mel watches just dunk it over everybody. Like they're literally
you're out of order, brother. Your order of operations is wrong. You skipped over Conor.
I know. I forgot about Con Canopy.
I tell you what,
he's a problem. He's a serious problem, and I didn't expect that coming into the season. They've got Steve, Conor, 3 maybe lottery picks on this team at least. Cooper,
Con, and Kaman will be lottery picks. It looks like so. Yeah.
And with Malawach, it's crazy too, because literally they're running the same play, and it's Knipple. Like they do a pick, Knipple drives into the paint, Malawach just drives behind him, and they just throw it up. They just literally throw it up, and he just dunks it, and it's like, how are you supposed to stop it? He's got a 7'8" wingspan, no one else has it, and they just keep doing it over and over. Like I haven't really seen him do a whole lot. He did shoot a 3 or something the other night, so he's good too. He'll probably go top 5 as well. I started thinking about it. I'm like, Cooper Flag is really good. He's really, really good. I've got some friends that are mad at me that I'm not hyping him more than we already have throughout the entire season here on the Desmond Johnson show. But I was like, is he the best freshman I've ever seen? Because that's kind of where the conversation's starting to go. Is he the best freshman basketball player you've ever seen? I'm going to start back with you, Jaelen. We're going to go back counterclockwise here. Best freshman you've ever seen. We're going to do this kind of round table, throwing out names here. So we're not even really doing order. Like, let's start throwing out some names here. What's the first thing that pops up in your mind when you think of freshman best basketball player that you have seen with your own eyes?
First name that popped in my head was Carmelo Anthony.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Actually, I'm keeping a list here. So
that was the first name that popped in my head. National champion with Syracuse. And I mean, I would say Cooper Flag's season in its entirety has been more impressive than Carmelo Anthony's right now, just because of the wire-to-wire pressure. I mean, Syracuse wasn't a high-ranked team coming into that season, and I don't think they were ranked in the top 15 when this tournament started, if I'm not mistaken. So I think if Cooper is able to get the national championship and win the MVP of that game, it would be hard for me to say he's not the most impressive freshman that I've seen. John Wall's got to be up there too.
That's a good one too. See,
I'm not going to start throwing out names. I'm going to say some names for the other guys. So
I always think of John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins as like a package. Whenever I think about them missing all them damn free throws in that NCAA tournament. It was like West Virginia or somebody. I can't remember who it was, but they were. Yeah, and it was 2010 because we were thinking it was going to be Duke, Kentucky, and Kentucky didn't make it there. Duke got there and ended up winning the whole thing. Conor, who's the best freshman player you think of when you before this year even happened? Before you saw Cooper Flag? Now I know. Now me and you've talked a lot off camera. I mean, you've told me about Cooper Flag for going on like 2 years, so like you've kind of known he was coming. Who do you think of when you outside of Cooper?
I love the Carmelo shout out because as a kid from the Baltimore suburbs, like we were all dialed in 2003. Hakeem Warwick and Jerry McNamara were so good on that team too, though.
McNamara, yeah.
I go. My mind goes to Kevin Durant. As a like 15 or 16-year-old that year, I think I picked Texas to go win it all because I was like, well, I think he's better than Carmelo, and Melo won the national championship. So now Kevin Durant's turn. And I think they got knocked off in the second round or Sweet 16.
Yeah.
The one that we tend to forget about him as a freshman because of everything he's done in the NBA. I think of Anthony Davis and the impact that he had at Kentucky. I mean, there have been 2 one-and-done teams that have won national championships, and the most recent one was 2015 Duke. So we talk about Duke in that light, and we talk about Jahlil Okafor and Justice Winslow, Tyus Jones, Grayson Allen. Anthony Davis was the best player in the country as a freshman. Once you got past his unibrow, it was just incredible to watch every different way that he impacted the game, both offensively and defensively. So
I like how he leaned into the unibrow too, because some people might be like, "No, I don't want to talk." Like he turned it into like a logo or whatever, didn't he? Like, yeah,
great marketing.
Yeah,
all marketing is great marketing when it becomes a brand, right? But that's the one I think of, and in terms of like how many different ways Cooper Flag affects the game, I kind of think that's the comparison we need to be making here, even though they play different positions.
Yeah, because it's not just offensively. He's probably the best passer on the team. He might be top 3 defender. I mean, Malawach obviously is probably their top one, but he's up there. Steals. I mean, like you said, he's leading in 5 categories. No Duke players ever done.
Cooper Flag's their best defender because Malawach he's going to protect the paint better. But Cooper defends the rim, but his own ball defense is unbelievable too.
He can guard 1 through 5, like almost literally, and he's what 6'10", I think, 6'11".
6'10".
So,
it kind of loses some meaning because Duke puts 5 players on the court that can guard 1 through 5 at all times. Like, that's talking about Kamon Malawach and why he's good. He's so raw offensively. He's going to be a top 10 pick because he can switch onto a guard and stay in front of him and not give up a blow by, not cross his feet over and trip down and give up an open 3.
And Steve, I agree with all this. This might be the best defensive team I've seen at Duke. I was trying to think of another team close to it. Maybe like the 91, 92 teams. They could get after it on defense or whatnot. But it's been a long time when I felt like a Duke team deserved to slap the floor. You know what I mean? Like to literally, like when they do it, and you kind of feel like, oh, okay, they're on it. This team deserves to do it. They never do it. Like, I don't know if they've retired it or whatever's happened with that. Maybe you guys can figure out find out what that is, because I've been curious about it. Like, I haven't seen them slap the floor in like years now. And I'm sitting there thinking about, actually, you know what? Now I'm starting thinking about just doing this random thought out loud. The last time I saw a slap the floor was that game in Miami when Miami did it to them. Do you remember that? It was like
I was there
7 years ago. It was that great Miami team. They
Yeah.
were beating the brakes off of Duke by like 25. And there was like all these Miami alumni in the crowd or whatever. And the Miami players started slapping the floor at Duke. And I was like, clutching my pearl, like, oh my God. I can't believe that Miami's even doing it. And I haven't really seen them doing it since then. This team deserves to do it. They're probably one of the better defensive units I've seen at Duke. Now you're one of the older heads, Steve, with me. I'm hoping you're going to go a little bit further back with these better freshmen, because I've got some older guys on here that were playing, I think, before both these guys were born. So, Steve, who's your freshman that you think of?
I have to say, I had written down here. I had written Carmelo down first.
Oh,
I had Anthony right here, Anthony Davis written right here too, Conor. So, and I saw Zion too. I saw RJ Barrett have a triple double in a game against NC State. So, those are really good. I mean, Grant Hill. Think about what he did with that team. You know, they lost to UNLV in 1990. They got their ass blown out in the championship. And the next year they beat UNLV and they won the title. And what was different? Coach K said, we got Grant Hill. That's what was different. You know, we had Grant Hill. So he was a superstar, right? He could do a lot of things. What's different about Cooper? Cooper's kind of similar to Grant Hill in that he could do a lot of things on the court, right? Grant could pass and score and rebound and everything. Cooper's leading Duke in every major category, all the counting stats, right? And he's doing it for a team that's, in the Final Four. I mean, sometimes guys lead their team in scoring, rebounding, and all this stuff. There was a guy this year at UAB that did it, but it was UAB, and they were like 12 and 17 or whatever. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So the fact that he's been doing this consistently all year for a team that is playing at this level is almost unheard of. I mean, you don't see it happen. You're right. Nobody's ever done it for Duke, let alone a freshman. Has done it. Leitner didn't do this because he had Hurley on the team, all the assists. So that's what that was all about. But
when Leitner was on the team, Danny Ferry was the big guy. So it's a little different. But and you talk about Mount Rushmore for Duke. I think you got to put Cooper Flag on the Duke route, Mount Rushmore, if they don't win, right? Or would you still put him in?
I think if they win, that's it. Because why? Because what's the asterisk about Zion and RJ? They didn't make the Final Four.
They didn't make the Final Four. Yeah.
So
and same with you're absolutely right. So like right now, I guess it's Grant Hill. I always consider Grant Hill the best overall basketball player to come out of Duke in terms of while he was there and then what he did after Duke. And then Leitner second, but of course Leitner's college career is probably one of the best college careers of all time. So like Grant Hill, Christian Leitner.
Yeah.
At that point, it starts getting kind of wide open because then you can kind of go. Me personally, I put Johnny Dawkins on the Mount Rushmore because for me, that was the first real Duke team that I actually, as a kid, noticed. And I tell people this story all the time. There was a stretch where I could have went either way when I was like 7, 8 years old. Like I watched the '86 Louisville Duke national championship game and was rooting for Duke in that game. Like Duke was like 38-1 or something crazy by the time they got to that game. And you talk about freshmen. Purvis Ellison in that game, Louisville. I have him written down on my list. I'm going to show my age here in a bit when I start going through my list. But I feel like a Mad Dog on First Take, bringing up calls from like the from like the 30s or whatever. But I would put Johnny Dawkins on that list, and then the fourth one's kind of open because there's a lot of Duke players that didn't win a title that I would kind of put there, like a Zion, because what he did impact wise, but they didn't win a ring. So it's like, would you put like a John Shire there instead, who I'm coming to find out that this dude was a beast in high school. I didn't even realize how dangerous this dude was when he was a high school basketball player. I remember him being at Duke and what he did at Duke, but I didn't realize how much of a dog he was when he was in high school and how he got to Duke in the first place playing in Chicago. So would you put somebody like Shire there? Would you put somebody there like a Jahlil Okafor or somebody like that from the 2015 team? So that fourth spot is open, and Conor Flag can plant a flag, so to speak, and take that fourth spot if they win. If they win Saturday night, and then if they win Monday night going forward. We'll get to the Final Four predictions here in just a sec. Got Jaelen, Gilkey, Conor, ONeill, and Steve Wiseman in the house. It's a Final Four, a Duke Final Four edition of the Desmond Johnson Show here on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel. Here are the ones I listed. The first one that came to mind for me was Chris Webber. just because he was more of a Chris Webber didn't feel like a freshman when he started, and he just never felt like he was supposed to be in college. Like the 2 years he was there, like it just felt like he could have just went straight to the league and been fine. And he was doing athletic stuff that we had just seen like Larry Johnson do, but Larry Johnson was a grown man. He was like 24, 25 years old or whatever by the time he left UNLV. Webber comes in 17, 18 years old, number one player in the country, and just boom, boom, boom. It's must-see TV from the very beginning. I've always kind of compared Zion at Duke kind of to Chris Webber at Michigan. Their playing styles are a little similar. Chris is slimmer, of course, but they kind of had the similar kind of qualities to him. So I have him on there. A name that I bring up a lot to people when it brings up, Kenny Anderson. Like, if you've never seen tape of Kenny Anderson, point guard Kenny Anderson, Georgia Tech, Lethal Weapon 3. Like, if you've not seen that freshman year, that UNLV team that blew out Duke before that in the Final Four had to play that Lethal Weapon 3 Georgia Tech team in the Final Four. And I was actually rooting for UNLV, but I would not have been surprised if Georgia Tech had won. That team was so much fun, and they were driven by Kenny Anderson, point guard from New York. Probably the craziest handles I've ever seen, other than maybe Kyrie or Isaiah Thomas. Like, just the way he could handle the rock, it was just ridiculous, and it sticks out in my mind. And he was only there, I believe, I think he stayed sophomore year, and then he left because that was kind of before you could leave one and done, or you could. Well, people weren't doing it. This was 91, so I think he stayed 2 years and then he left. And I wrote Tyler Hansbrough in terms of what he did freshman year coming in at Carolina, the records that he holds there, and that team was not expected to do anything. The 2006 Carolina team, and because of him and that crop of freshmen that came in, they had a really good year. So I would put Tyler on there as well. And I did write Purvis Ellison up at the very top. But the ones you guys had, Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Grant Hill, those are all superb picks. Let's get over to the Final Four. Of course, we said all 4 1 seeds made the tournament, and I went to go check my ESPN bracket to see what I did. I got 3 of the 4 right. It kind of felt like a chalk type year. It felt like these 4 schools were the best 4 teams in the country. The first game, it's on CBS, and actually, I want to rant just 5 seconds on this. The national championship and Final Four should never, ever be on TBS. I'm glad it's on CBS this year. I don't know why they do this alternating junk where they put it on TBS and you got to figure out what's going on. When Carolina won the national championship in 2017, I had to watch it on TBS. And it's just like, what are they doing? And I saw that it's on CBS this year. And I'm like, good. It's a bigger audience. It's wider. Everybody can access it for free instead of having to go to Max or whatever to get to it. I just want to put that out there, get off my soapbox on that. But Florida and Auburn, SEC foes, rivals, will play in game 1, 6:49 p.m. Saturday on CBS, followed by the nightcap, Duke versus Houston. Let's tackle Florida versus Auburn first. These 2 teams have been at the top of the rankings and the SEC pretty much all year. Auburn was on number 1 for like 8 weeks straight or something like that. Had a little rut towards the end, but a lot of people chalk that up to them being bored, basically. They're back at it. It looks like Broom's going to be okay after that scare this past weekend where like he hurt 3 different body parts on the same play. Still came back in, hit a 3. Thoughts on Auburn, Florida? Florida's had to they've had to fight here past couple of games just to kind of get to this point. Steve, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on Florida and Auburn? Who do you think emerges from out of that one on the first game on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, like Conor, I got to watch Auburn play in person when they came to Cameron this year, so I know what they're all about, and they've got a lot. They're really good. But the thing about Florida is Walter Clayton Jr. Like, I can't get past him and what he's done at the end of games, especially we saw him. The UConn played Florida right before Duke played in Raleigh last Sunday, and seeing him bring them back in that game, and then in the Elite Eight against Texas Tech. I mean, he's the kind of guy. It's almost like a cheat code, as somebody referred to him as. You got to knock him out if you're going to. I mean, you got to stop him, and they haven't been able to do it yet in these late game situations. It's really the one thing Duke hasn't had to do yet, right? They haven't had to win a game late like that, like coming back in the last 5-10 minutes. Anyway, so I'm really impressed by Florida and Walter Clayton Jr. And so until they're knocked out, I'm gonna go with them.
You're going with Florida. All right, Conor. Florida and Auburn Saturday night, 6:49 p.m. tip-off on CBS. Who are you going with here tentatively in that opening round game?
I'm kind of in the same boat with Steve. Like, until proven otherwise, and until proven that Walter Clayton's going to miss a big shot, I'm going to just think I'm going to assume the ball is going in when it leaves his hand. That display he put on against UConn in the second round, I was pretty convinced UConn was going to be moving on, and we were going to have another week of Dan Hurley antics to talk about. But man, I will always hitch my wagon. Maybe this is because I'm 5'9" and not 6'9", but I will always hitch my wagon to the guard that just lets it fly and makes tough big shots.
Clayton's got a little Steph Curry in him, don't he, Jaelen? A little sprinkling. You squint your eyes.
People say that, but he's giving me more Kemba Walker vibes.
Ooh, that's even better. Yeah, because
he a little bit more Kemba Walker vibes.
Yeah,
and I think that's where he's kind of just his bravado, because Steph was always confident in his game, but Kemba Walker at UConn, he like the way that swag he had, just that sauce, as the kids would say, that aura he has. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of I know I'm the best, and now y'all do too. And I just like Florida's best player better than I like Auburn's best player when it just comes down to it. They played earlier in the season. Walter Clayton had 19 points and 9 rebounds. So that was a game high in both categories.
I will say, even though Duke was the flag bearer for the ACC basically after the round of 64, ACC still getting a team in the Final Four. The ACC has had more teams in the Final Four in the past 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. Meanwhile, the Big Ten still over since what year was the last time they got a team in the Final Four? I can't even remember what it was now.
Big Ten.
Yeah.
Purdue last year.
Yeah, Purdue was in there last year. Yeah. So, but they haven't won a national championship since Michigan State, right? Like, what was it 2000? 2000. So they haven't won a national championship in going on 25 years, the Big Ten. And I was told that they were a better conference than the ACC.
I wanted to ask the room a question too about this. With SEC having 2 teams in, is that enough? Considering they had 14 teams make the field or whatever it was.
Hell no. They should have had all 4 of these things locked up to me. Like, I mean, sir, as much as we've heard about the SEC all year, it just means more and all this garbage. And then you only get Florida and Auburn, the 2 teams we kind of expected to be in the Final Four to get there. Like, I expected Tennessee.
Florida had to beat Tennessee, though. So, Houston.
Houston, look, and we're going to talk about Houston, Duke here in just a second. Houston is a group of like 26-year-old grown men, it feels like, that lift weights. Like they just sit around lifting weights and then they go play basketball when they're done. Like they just push people around. Like,
and chew glass as a post-game meal.
Yeah. They just let's go out here and let's do this. And like that's the one team I was like, if Duke sees that team, that might turn into a rock fight because of the way they play defense. And like I've always been a firm believer in, if you can play defense in football or basketball, you can alter the game. Like, regardless of how good the offensive team is you're playing, if you can play really good defense, you can alter the game. You can't necessarily alter the game every time as a good offense. Things happen. You miss shots, things like that. You can control your defense. You know what I mean? So with Houston, the way they play and they're up on you, it doesn't give Duke the freedom to move around as freely as they are. And I think teams make that mistake like we saw this past week where they just kind of let Duke move around, and the next thing you know, Proctor's wide open for a 3, and you're like, why is he wide open? Like, how did that happen? Like, and it's just simple offensive movement that a lot of teams aren't doing. Houston can defend that. Like, I feel like Houston can honestly defend that. Now, can they defend Duke and keep them under 70 points? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure they can. Can Houston score more than 70 points to beat Duke? That's kind of really what's going to be in. Like, can Houston score 85 points on Duke when Duke's only allowed that to happen over 70 a couple of times this year? Yeah, once.
Well, the most scored, Arizona 293 was the only time somebody scored more than 77. I think it was
Houston. And Houston's not going to be able to do that, right? So So I think we're all picking Florida to move on the other side. There is that where we're at? Or okay, so we got Florida. Actually, have Florida Duke on my bracket, a national championship game. Duke Houston. Are we just kind of rolling with this here, fellas? Are we all thinking Duke is the team to beat? Like, is this just a formality, or are you expecting some issues here with Duke and Houston? This is the biggest spotlight the team has had going into Saturday.
You guys hit some of the points already. Having, like you said, Arizona, the only team that scored more than 77 points on Duke. Duke scored over 100 points, looks like 5 times this year. Houston hasn't scored 100 points all season. The most they scored was 97 against Jackson State. And then they had 92 against Kansas. That was their first meeting earlier in the season. But I don't think they'll be able to score. It's the length factor. It's really the problem. Houston's got one guy who's 6'11". He doesn't even play.
Yeah.
So, and Duke's got, 3 guys over 6'10" in the rotation?
Like starting. Like literally, I mean, between Flag, Malawatch, how tall is Knipple? Like 6'9", 6'8"?
Yeah, but Gongwa's 6'11" too now.
He don't even get a lot. He's good. And he don't get a lot.
No, he's been getting a lot of minutes.
He's getting more now. Yeah.
And he's taking full advantage.
Yeah, they're so long. It's not just that they're tall; they're wingspan, like all of them. Like they just. We talked about this before when after the Carolina Duke game, the first one, where I was just so frustrated watching it because they couldn't even complete basic passes. They don't really guard players; they guard the passing lanes. Like they anticipate, they jump it, and they go. Especially the guards, like Proctor. I got to give a shout out to Tyrese Proctor too. I've been down on him the past year or two. Didn't know why he was still there. I see now why he's still there and why he's kind of de facto leader of this team, and what the steps he has taken and moved forward as a player the past year have been huge in my eyes. Like I don't think they're there without Proctor playing the way he's playing right now. I think they would have slipped and somebody would have caught him. But the way he's playing, the way Flag is playing, coming back from injury, the way they're playing defense, Knipple was just kind of like that dude when Flag does go sit down, you can just run it through Knipple and you're gonna score, you're gonna get a set. Nothing changes. Like nothing changes when you take Flag out. And that's the scary part for me watching Duke's. Like if you get Flag in foul trouble, maybe you got a shot, right? Like the traditional thought of let's get him on the bench. No, it just opens up the bench. Like it just means you're just gonna bring in like 3 or 4 guys off the bench you probably don't want to see anyway. And now they're getting to come in. So it's like, what do you do? Do you wear them out? Do you make them tired? No, because they can score 100 on you. Like it's one of the most complete college teams I've seen in a long, long time, and it hurts my heart that it's in Durham and it's the Duke Blue Devils. But that kind of thing happens. It's just the kismet of the rivalry here. Are we all picking Duke to move forward, or are any of you worried about this Duke Houston matchup on Saturday night?
I mean, there's some concern. I mean, I picked Duke in my original bracket long ago. I'm going to stick to that. I still think they're the better team now, and they've shown a toughness that they have to have. Like you're right, when they get pushed around, this team pushes back. Unlike some past teams, even last year's team, Duke beat Houston in the Sweet 16 because of an injury, right? For Houston,
shed the guard.
Yeah, exactly. He sprained his ankle.
Mm-hmm.
That Duke team wasn't very tough. Not with you, Conor. We already talked about that.
They lost to NC State. I mean,
shout
out to NC State, but I'm like, come on.
That caused this
come on.
existential crisis that led to the roster being torn down and rebuilt because they had to have guys like Sion James and Malik Brown. We didn't even talk about the tall guys with long arms. Malik Brown is everyone.
Oh God, yeah, he's been like off and on with the injuries. So, but when he's in, their defense goes up even another notch. Exactly. Like he was the one I was pointing out, and it's funny, Steve. You kind of put that point there. We have NC State to thank for all this. Like if NC State doesn't beat Duke last year the way they did twice,
right?
They probably don't flip the roster like this, right? Like they probably don't realize they have a problem. And thanks, NC State. Just thank you from America. Thank you.
Now look at you, NC State.
See, you're showing love to NC State. You're showing love to Duke.
Don't even make the ACC tournament.
You make your own conference tournament. Like, was it worth it? Was it worth it? NC State? Like,
absolutely,
yes.
Absolutely,
absolutely, it was. They would say yes. So it looks like we're looking at a Florida Duke Monday night championship game. That'll be on before we're back on again talking about basketball or whatnot. Are we picking Duke to win the whole thing here? Is that because Duke Florida sounds like a track meet to me?
I actually my hot take here is I think if Florida wins and is opposite Duke, I think Duke's harder game will be the Houston Final Four game in the national championship.
Absolutely.
I think what maybe this is going too much into the weeds on matchups and stuff. I think the reason Arizona was the tougher game than Alabama this past weekend was Alabama had seen Duke's length before. And granted, it was 4 months before, but they had still been out there and seen what it was like to have, 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 6'9", 7'2" out there in the starting lineup. Alabama had not seen that. And that's where Duke is up 15-5 at the first media timeout. And from there, basically the game was a stalemate until Duke's kill shot late in the game to put them away. I think Arizona had an advantage having seen that length before. I think if Auburn is there, it'll be a great rematch. Auburn has seen the length before, and that would be another really tough game for Duke if that's the matchup. But I think Florida with 3 guards, just like Houston, that are all, I think, 6'4" or shorter.
Yeah.
That's a tough matchup for Florida.
Yeah, and both Florida and Auburn have both played Duke and lost to Duke this year, correct? Both those teams saw them. Didn't Duke play Florida earlier this year?
No.
Carolina played
Auburn. They did play Auburn though. So Florida's not seen them. Auburn has way back. I mean, we're talking. Was that like December? Like when they saw each other?
4th. Yeah,
Early?
December SEC challenge.
This might as well like been 2 seasons ago at this point. So I do think Auburn has some depth. But yeah, I'm kind of looking at Duke Florida as the one where I'm like, all right, that's the one. That seems like the one the country wants right now too. Maybe Duke Auburn. I don't think there will be a preference. Whoever the SEC versus Duke is pretty much what it feels like what the country wants right now, and it seems like it's what they're going to get. Houston seems like an afterthought, which sets up perfectly for Houston to have the greatest upset in the tournament this year and beat Duke in the Final Four and go on and win the national championship finally, first time in school history. And I forgot how much of a college basketball pass Houston has without having a national championship. They feel, and maybe we'll do that maybe after the Zero with dormant dominant programs in college basketball, because you could make a case for NC State, you can make a case for Indiana, you can make a case for UCLA. I think you can put Houston in that category, even though they've never won a national championship. You're talking about Akeem Olajuwon, Elvin Hayes, like Claude Drexler. They've had squads, and Kelvin Sampson, shout out to him. He should be a National Coach of the Year nominee himself for what he's done for this Houston program over the past couple of years and bring them back to national prominence. It's nice to see. It's nice to see, but they got a tall task Saturday night, a little bit after 9:00. Houston will be taking on Duke, Florida, Auburn, and the game before that, 6:49 on CBS. The national championship game will be Monday night. They say it's what? Did they ever move the time up for the national championship? We all complained about it. Like it needs to be like an 8:00 tip. It's usually like 9:30, something like that. But it'll be late. We'll all be sleeping.
In the 9 o'clock range.
Yeah, 9-ish on Monday. So we'll all have it there. Tomorrow continues our Panthers content creator series, where we will have Alex Bryant and Cody Hecox on to talk about Carolina Panthers. What should they do with that number 8 pick? Should they trade it? Should they actually do something with it? We'll figure that out tomorrow. And then Friday, we got a little special something planned. So stick around, rate and subscribe, youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. We'll see you tomorrow, 12:30.